meeting is being streamed live on the Port's YouTube channel. I'll call for a motion and second to grant a leave of absence to Commissioner Nemi, who's out of town.
I so move.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Pam, if you could call the roll, please.
Commissioners Alexander, Kupro-Comas,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Levy, McDonald, O'Halloran,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
and Saruda.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now call for a motion and second for approval of the minutes of the regular commission meeting of June 10, 2020, and the special commission meeting of June 23rd, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Pam.
Commissioners Alexander, Kupro-Comas,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Levy, McDonald, O'Halloran,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Saruda.
Aye.
Thank you. Curtis, if you could provide the executive director's report, please.
Madam President, I did want to acknowledge that I'm on the phone, Commissioner Alexander. I just linked in.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And Commissioner McDonald is also here, Madam President.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, commissioners and guests. Nice to virtually see everyone again. Hope everyone is holding in there. We're now into must be our fourth or fifth commission meeting this way, and I appreciate everyone's flexibility and understanding and trying to make it work. I do want to first, as per usual, acknowledge the Port's Monthly Safety Champions, whose photos are on the screen here. Just really happy and proud of the team to continue in this very strange and surreal environment to keep focusing on safety, watching out for each other and our passengers, our customers, and our business partners. So thanks to these four gentlemen for their work in the last month on safety. Stan, I wonder if you'd help us with a safety message this morning.
Sure. Today, I will report on the Port's fiscal year progress on our employee safety and health journey. The Port continues to take ground on our journey to advance our employee safety culture. Over the fiscal year just closed, we worked hard to build the capability to have safety and health conversations in the workplace among supervisors and individual contributors. I want to highlight a few of the significant accomplishments that will have enduring value as we continue to progress and mature our safety and health programs. First, we improved incident investigations to benefit from the learning organization. We created quick response QR code for employees to use when initiating hazard reports. We issued a stop work authority procedure for employee involvement in workplace safety. We documented business line and enterprise safety plans to address opportunity indicators within the Caterpillar Employee Safety Perception Survey report with quarterly metrics. Our corrective action pathing tracked 198 safety issues with 345 tasks to a closure rate of 88%, a significant improvement over fiscal year 2019. We developed safety and health e-learning courses, one on safety and health policy and another one on hazard and incident reporting. We developed COVID pandemic readiness, response, and resolve protocols for port essential workers and construction project workers. We continued to recognize and celebrate our safety and health champions each month, and we continued execution of our safety and health program to maintain OSHA compliance. Employee safety and health has been a guiding principle on how we perform our work at the Port of Portland for several years. This year, we worked to integrate safety performance in all our job position descriptions. Further, our COVID pandemic response protocols have strengthened that safety principle throughout the Port to enable forthright safety conversations and planning for operational excellence. Curtis, that's my message for this month.
Terrific. Thank you, Stan. Appreciate that. Madam President, I do want to acknowledge that Commissioner Bob Levy has also joined here on the phone, and I'll just continue my executive director comments here. I want to announce, as I think folks have heard before, Antoinette Chandler is joining us as Chief Financial Officer. She actually starts next week with more than 20 years of banking and investment experience in the public and the private sector. She's been at Morgan Stanley and Bank of America, amongst others, and on the public side at the County of San Diego and County of Los Angeles. She's just terrific. Most recently, she was the Assistant Treasurer of LA County. She starts on July 16th, and we're just really thrilled to have her at the port. I also want to note a settlement with Monsanto. The port joined with 12 other governmental entities to announce a proposed nationwide class action settlement with the Monsanto Company, Pharmacia LLC, and Solutia Inc. for $550 million. We initially filed a lawsuit 3 years ago seeking cost recovery for damages occurring on port property. PCBs are the primary contaminant driving cleanup in the lower Willamette River and the Portland Harbor Superfund site. We had evidence that Monsanto became aware of how toxic and dangerous PCBs were during the time they manufactured their PCB containing products. We don't know the exact amount of money we'll receive until the class action is approved by the court, but it is clear to us that we'll use that money to help fund cleanup of environmental contamination in the river. On to PDX Next. We are celebrating the opening of Concourse E next week on July 15th. We're thrilled about the opening. It's not exactly the environment in which we had hoped to open this great new addition to PDX, but you play the cards that you're dealt. Starting on the 15th of July, travelers flying on Southwest will find 4 new places to eat and shop: Tillamook, Jamba, Calliope, and your Northwest Travel Mart. We'll also have 2 new aerial sculptures from artist Jacob Hashimoto reflecting the Pacific Northwest. They're coming in now. I believe they're now set. They just look fantastic. You'll see on the screen here a representation of the art from Jacob Hashimoto. Just really terrific, exciting stuff, and we're thrilled to be able to show his art inside the airport. You'll see a great view of Mount Hood in this new light-filled space, full floor-to-ceiling windows, and a lot of heart and great customer service from Southwest Airlines. We're just really excited about what's ahead here. So really looking forward to it. In normal times, we'd be hosting an opening day event and gathering workers together to thank them. But given the safety issues around COVID, we won't be able to do this in person. So instead, we've come up with a pretty creative and safe solutions. On July 17th and 18th, we're hosting a drive-in movie for the Maine workers who put Concourse E in place. Everyone will remain in their cars while they view a thank you video and a showing of Incredibles 2, which honors the incredible skill and dedication of these workers to finishing this concourse safely in the face of COVID. And now I'd like to play a short video that honors the 1,000 architects, construction workers, and artists who built Concourse E. You ready with a quick video, Steve?
The airport's kind of your first impression of a city.
You come into PDX and the color of the carpet is like flying over the green state of Oregon.
You get to experience the Portland vibe, even if you weren't to leave the airport.
There's local food, local art, live music. There's even a movie theater that has independent short films playing.
Airports are typically a place where you don't even think about what it looks like, and Portland feels like a home.
Six years ago, we got the team together and the Port of Portland together, and we kicked off the project and started design.
I am most excited about the artwork. I'm really excited to see the passengers take in that kite type sculpture.
They wanted us to be reacting to the kind of special place that PDX is in Portland.
You got challenges on all sides. It's super complicated.
Since coronavirus, work has changed quite a bit.
It's put on a whole nother level of concerns. And we knew that working in airport was going to be hard. With all this happened with COVID, it just became exponentially more difficult.
First, it was like, how do we do that with social distancing? What I've seen is it amazes me how people adapt, come together, and create solutions. And construction workers are brilliant at that.
Super stoked about moving over to Concourse E.
It is going to be unlike any other gate that you've ever waited for a plane in.
And along the way, we've got the shops and the artwork.
It will be nice to have something brand new, plus that view of Mount Hood.
I'm sure in the future, people will take their pictures just like they take their pictures on their feet on the carpets.
I think it's exciting.
I'm feeling sentimental. I had this for 4.5, 5 years, and now we're getting to the end. Man, am I going to be missing that now?
The part that makes me the most proud about being a part of this project is the friendships.
There's so many just great people at PDX. This has been the best team I've worked for.
The video really gives you a sense of the wide range of people and skills that came together to make Concourse E what it is. We're just thrilled and grateful. As we celebrate this project, we also must pay tribute to the people who've called this land home since time immemorial, the indigenous peoples of the region. A land acknowledgement serves as a formal statement that recognizes the indigenous peoples and respects their ongoing stewardship of these lands and waters. COVID, as noted, prevents an in-person groundbreaking event for Concourse E, but we hope that future PDX Next openings will include an official in-person event with tribal representatives at the site. So today I'm going to close with the land acknowledgement that will be shared at the drive-in event with the workers on Concourse E. We acknowledge that the Port of Portland is located on lands that have been occupied and stewarded since time immemorial by people from the bands of Chinook, Clackamas, Cowlitz, Kalapuya, Cathlamet, Multnomah, Molalla, Tualatin, and Wasco. Many other indigenous peoples have their homes in, travel through, harvest, and use the plentiful natural resources of the Columbia River, Willamette River, and the other lands and waters within the Ports District. The Port of Portland recognizes the ongoing relationship that exists between indigenous peoples and these places. Madam President, those are my comments for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Curtis. Look forward to seeing it in person. I'll call for a motion and second to approve the executive director's report, please.
Madam President.
Second.
Thank you. Pam, would you please call the roll?
Commissioners Alexander,
Aye.
Kupro Comas,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Levy, Commissioner Levy, you're on mute. Commissioner Levy? Okay, Commissioner O'Halloran?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped Commissioner McDonald,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Halloran,
Aye.
Commissioner Pierce,
Aye.
and Saruda.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before moving on, I want to acknowledge Commissioner McDonald had a question or comment.
I had a comment. Thank you, Madam President. Curtis, I wanted to thank you and acknowledge the creative and innovative tribute you just gave to the thousands of workers who managed through this COVID-19 pandemic to deliver what I would consider another in a long legacy of innovation and improved passenger experience. And I thought it was very well done, the tribute to the indigenous people as well they are sharing their land with us. And so I think it was very appropriate, but hats off to you and your team for the creative approach to recognize everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have confirmed that we did not receive public comment this month. So I will move on to our general discussion item if I could call on Dan Pippinger.
Good morning, Commission, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I don't have a video to share for my update on what's going on. The comms team was fully working for Curtis and not me, evidently. I think I would just say that we've relatively settled into a new normal of operations at port facilities, and all of our facilities remain open and operating with modified conditions to some extent, but to serve the public and the businesses of the region. Of note is some health guidance that's changed a little bit. The governor's order for face coverings in public spaces that where distancing isn't effective on July 1st really didn't change anything at PDX since we did that in early May. And I'd report that we're getting very good compliance by the traveling public and the workers at PDX. We don't really have any issues to talk about in terms of people not wanting to wear them or behavior related to that. And I'm very pleased about that because I think people both want to keep themselves safe, but also want to keep their community members and people they're doing business with safe as well. The federal government did last week release a what they call a runway to recovery guidance for airports and airlines. That was from the Department of Transportation, Homeland Security, and Health and Human Services. It had 11 recommendations in it. We've cross-referenced those recommendations with our already existing program that I've talked about before called Build Back Better, and also with industry guidance we've received as well from the trade groups that we belong to. I would say there's nothing significant in the federal guidance. It's very suggestive and really best practices that we're already engaged in. But it was good to go through and look at. But there's still no federal directives in terms of safety or behavior at airports and on airlines. And we, of course, continue with our close partnership with our airlines and tenants, both as well as with the cleaning and adjusting the physical alterations within the terminal at PDX. A brief note on what's going on at PDX. Things are better. There's no doubt passengers are coming back. It's slow but steady. As you'll recall, in April and May, we were down 95% of our traffic. Through June, we were down 82%. So that's, a 13% increase of the 2019 numbers. So far in July, we're down 73%, which is even better. But I think we're all cognizant, looking at the news, of the rapid spread of the coronavirus, especially in certain states. And so we're all waiting to see what happens. We're certainly not counting our chickens before the eggs hatch in terms of being out of this, because I think that will dampen travel again to some degree. Whether it goes down or stays steady, we don't know. But another physical harbinger of increased passenger traffic is that back in April and May, at the height of the loss of enplaned passengers, we had 61 commercial aircraft on the ground at PDX, basically laid up, waiting to get back into service. So we've gone down from 61 now. There's only 28 remaining. So those 33 odd aircraft are back in service, and that's good news for everyone. Air cargo continues to be a really strong point. We have over 200 additional flights per month compared to what we were doing in 2019 for air cargo. And that's really driven by e-commerce. And you can see the pandemic certainly is driving that even faster than it was already growing. Revenue is tracking for the most part. Both parking and concession spends are tracking with enplanements, which is what we would expect. However, commercial vehicle transactions are lagging. And I think it's just kind of interesting to think about people are willing to drive park at the airport, go through the airport, buy food, get on a plane, but they're being much slower about getting in somebody else's car. So that's kind of interesting. That's mainly with transportation network companies like Uber and Lyft and some taxi service as well. Curtis mentioned the Concourse E opening. We're super excited about that. I won't mention any more about that. I thought he did a great job with that. And I can't wait for all of you and for the public to really walk out there on Concourse E. The volume that Hanna-Berry Eddy, the architect, designed and that has been built is really impressive. And with the artwork in it, I think Irene Ng was exactly on. It's just feels so nice when you're in that space. And I'm looking forward to your reactions when you get a chance to do that. The other PDX Next projects continue on with no significant impacts of COVID-19. That's the parking and rental car facility and the what we call the rental car center, which is the 5-story office building, as well as the terminal core project, which includes the Concourse B project. So that's really exciting that those projects are humming along. It's a great time to be doing them with less passengers in the terminal because there's a lot of impact on roadways, passenger routing, and things like that. So we're excited to get a lot of that work done right now. Finally, I'll just touch on marine facilities. As I mentioned, all of our facilities are open and operating. We continue to see good volumes across the SM line weekly call. We continue to have excellent partnership with the International Longshore and Warehousemen's Union with both productivity on the cranes and moving the containers and loading and unloading the ship, but also on the COVID-19 precautions that are at the terminal. And I just want to thank them for their partnership to make that business a success. That, Madam Chair, is my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much, Dan. Do we have any questions from the commission?
I did have a question, Madam President, for Dan, and I didn't get my question in when Stan was speaking, Dan, but I was wondering, have we had any confirmed either symptomatic or asymptomatic cases amongst either port staff or our construction staffs?
Commissioner, we have definitely had some cases, but I don't know the specifics about them. I know, for example, we've had a recent case where a family member of a port employee was positively diagnosed, and we work through the port's HR department to make notifications to other workers and to have that the spouse in this case stay home and isolate also for a period of time and get testing. I can get you more specific if maybe somebody else could give you more specifics on the construction projects.
Yes, let me take Commissioner McDonald. We have had 3 positive tests of workers at headquarters. Vince, I wonder if you can, and all are fine now.
Oh, good.
Isolation is helping. Vince Granado, can you speak to the construction? I know we've had a few scares and actually one, I think, confirmed, but I'll leave that to you. Vince, would you mind just speaking to that?
Yeah, there were 2 confirmed cases, both on the parking garage project. They were subcontractors to J.E. Dunn, and we got notification after that, and they did all the proper cleaning and testing and contact tracing that was part of that. So we've just had the 2. There was a small subcontractor. It was in a certain area, so most of the work was able to continue, but we did have to slow down in a couple of spots until they did do all the contact tracing and cleaning.
Thanks, Vince.
So it sounds like all the protocols were followed and everyone thankfully is recovered or recovering.
Yes, absolutely.
Correct. And importantly for us, that's correct, Commissioner McDonald, importantly for us, also the spread was stopped, which obviously is very important to us. So we're happy with the outcome. We assumed that we would have cases, and indeed we have. We assume They were not workplace related, but obviously you deal with them as they come.
Thank you for the update.
Any other questions on this issue?
Yeah, Madam President, this is Commissioner Alexander. I sort of a follow-up. I know that we have heard about restrictions on travel from areas of higher concentration of cases to lower concentration of cases, and that people are being required to identify and sort of self-quarantine. Is there a role or responsibility that's placed on the airlines or the airport in terms of administration of that, in terms of how people travel and who's notified when somebody is required to self-quarantine? How does that impact the operation of the airport?
Yeah, great question, Commissioner Alexander. It was like you were in my staff meeting this week. Interestingly, Chicago, the city of Chicago is requiring self-quarantine by people traveling to Chicago, not just by air, but anyway, with a certain case of, from any state with a rate of over 15 cases per 100,000. And that leads to a lot of states, actually, mainly in the Southeast United States, but also Utah and California. And they shared with us their guidance document and their protocols for what they're doing. And we have since checked in with Multnomah County and the state. And there's no plans right now for that here in Oregon. However, it is something for us to think about is what would our role be if the state or the county put that into place. And so we would have a role of coordinating with the airlines and informing passengers. And we would work that out with the airlines in terms of arriving passengers, how they're notified, whether they're given some documents. And so the port certainly would be participating to administer that in whatever way that the county and state wanted notifications made. And we would work, of course, with the airlines as well. I don't think we would have a role in enforcing or tracking personnel, and that has not been asked of airports to this point. Mainly when these programs are put into place, it's the public health authority that's actually physically in the terminal or is asking the airlines and airport to notify people, and that's the extent of the engagement.
Great. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you. Any other questions for Dan on the COVID-19 update? Okay, Dan, if we could introduce the first agenda item, please.
Yes. Just check it to see which one it was. This is a collective bargaining agreement with the landscape gardeners who are in the marine and industrial development part of the port. Blaise Lamphere, our labor relations manager, will introduce it, but I just wanted to point out this is another represented group at the port that voluntarily entered negotiations with the port. Their contract was not up, and they agreed to participate in the port's furlough program and also to modify wages in a future year to help us weather the COVID-19 pandemic and the associated economic impacts. And while they're not a large group, I can't tell you how appreciative I am of their sacrifice and teamwork and collaboration with the rest of the port, and I thank them very much for that. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Blaise.
Good morning, commissioners. Yes, and thank you, Dan. I'm very pleased to report that what Dan just referred to, and that we not only reached a furlough agreement with this group, but also a 2-year extension. Next slide, please. So that 2-year extension effective next July, the group agreed to take a 0 wage increase for that coming year, and the following year will be based on CPIW West Class A second half. That is the index we use in all our collective bargaining agreements at this point for a minimum of 1% and a max of 3.5% in that second year. Next slide, please. And the estimated financial impact in new monies here, primarily that first year, despite the zero, what you have is that's largely attributable to a spike in PERS fees. So this money shows all of the roll-ups from the end of the existing agreement and with this 2-year addition. So that's largely the amount of the increase there. It does not incorporate the savings from the furlough, which is approximately 23,000. So effectively that first year is a wash even with the PERS baseline. Next slide, please. The executive director recommendation is approval to enter into a 2-year collective bargaining agreement extension with Laborers International Union of North America, Local 483. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the commission? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and second to approve the executive director's recommendation.
I move.
Second.
Pam, could you lead the roll call, please?
Commissioners Alexander,
Aye.
Kupro-Comas,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Levy, Commissioner Levy, McDonald,
Aye.
O'Halloran,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Saruda.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dan and Blaze, I think you have another agreement for us.
Indeed, Madam Chair. This agreement is with the Marine Security Team, which is a affiliate ILWU Local 28, who provides marine security services at Terminal 6 and Terminal 4 for the port. This contract expired last year in the summer of 2019. And we have had 10 negotiating sessions and 2 online mediation sessions to reach this agreement. Blaze is here to present it.
Thank you, Dan. Next slide, please. Okay, so the highlights of this agreement begin with a agreement on a 0 wage increase for 7/1/2019. So they do get the increase that was essentially formulaic that most of the groups received who were on this CPIW West Class A second half. They did get that increase for July of 2020. The 2 additional years, you'll see a range of 1% to 3.5% and 1% to 3% in July of 2022. We also came to agreement on a shift differential, which will go into effect in January of 21, which is 2% for hours that are actually worked between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning. Next slide, please. We came to agreement on the sick leave conversion program. That's a program designed initially for admin. Also, the PDX maintenance group came to agreement with this in their last contract. This is entirely voluntary, but allows for a conversion of up to 40 hours of sick leave to personal leave once a year. And this was something the group was seeking, so they've been added to that program. There's a new premium for the training coordinator. We had those who actually did the training. They get a 5% when a trainee's assigned. We have a coordinator now that's a distinct position from that. So somebody does not hold that and the trainer at the same time, but this is the same level of premium for that individual. An increase in the uniform maintenance allocation monthly from $73 was the previous to $80 per month. And one change we agreed to on healthcare was dental coverage for new hires. Previously, new hires had to wait 3 full months after their hire for dental coverage to kick in. Unlike both medical and vision kick in the first month after hire. So we changed dental to that too. So the 3-month waiting period for that coverage for new hires and their dependents is now eliminated. Next slide, please. The estimated financial impact, again, this shows PERS roll up, the 2 PERS years that include spikes as they are implemented biennially. The first one would be that year 1 where the 0 is 43% of the overall cost of new money in this agreement. There you see the $976,000. 43% of that, clear $418,000, is PERS baseline costs that would go up without any increase to wages. So that's the substantial portion there that you're seeing. Again, having the 0 in the first year certainly helps. And then you'll see the second PERS spike in year 3. There, the significant difference, and that's what that is mostly attributable to. Next slide, please. The executive director recommendation is approval to enter into a 4-year collective bargaining agreement for marine security officers with the International Longshore and Warehouse Union Local 28. Are there any questions?
Blaise, thank you, and thank you for the explanation on the PERS amounts here. Can you remind me, is it 28 folks in this bargaining unit?
There are 19. There are 2 vacancies currently, I believe. There's 19 full-time equivalents.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Any questions from the commission? All right, I'll call for a motion and second to approve the executive director's recommendation.
I so move.
Second.
Thank you, Pam.
Commissioners Alexander,
Aye.
Kupro-Comas,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Levy,
Aye.
McDonald,
Aye.
O'Halloran,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
and Saruda.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, could you introduce our final agenda item, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. This is a construction contract to replace lighting and protect utility poles at Marine Terminals 4 and 6. It doesn't sound very exciting, but it's actually very important, and I appreciate the work our asset management team and engineering teams have done to bring this project forward. This is really a replacement of a lot of wood poles with steel poles, much fewer of them, and improve the quality and energy efficiency of the lighting at the terminals. Here to present the recommendation to award the contract is Robin McCaffrey, Engineering Project Manager.
Good morning, Commissioners. First slide, please. This item requests approval to award a public improvement contract to Northeast Electric LLC for the T4 and T6 lighting replacement project in the amount of $2.22 million. Next slide, please. Shown here is the Terminal 4 work area. You can see the area in which the newer wood poles will be treated to extend their useful life, and the 3 areas in which older wood poles will be removed and new steel poles installed. New lighting will be installed as part of the scope, requiring terminal road lighting control modification. Next slide, please. Shown here is the Terminal 6 work area. Wood poles will be replaced with high-mast steel poles in the berth 607 Honda yard, Dan indicated, and new conduits and LED light fixtures will be installed. In the CDC, the Cargo Distribution Center building, the project will replace light fixtures that currently contain asbestos with new LED fixtures. Next slide, please. Here are the work elements listed. It's worth noting that in addition to increasing energy efficiency, this project will improve safety beyond just removing the asbestos-containing fixtures in the CDC. The new poles at both terminals will be able to handle stronger and longer wind gusts, and the conductors will be much less prone to breakage during a storm. These are operational benefits, but also significant safety. Next slide, please. The project has completed design. With your approval today, construction would begin in August and continue through roughly the end of the calendar year. Next slide, please. The project budget totals $3.7 million, broken out as shown. The project contingency is 14% of the project cost, which is reasonable given the project's risk profile and the complexity of the work sites. The project set a small business enterprise participation goal of 8.5%. Northeast Electric has committed to an 8.78% participation rate, slightly exceeding the project goal. Next slide, please. Staff requests approval of the executive director's recommendation.
Thank you very much. One quick question from me. Do you expect any time delays based on availability of materials given the pandemic, for example?
So right now we don't. That can always change. You know, there's a long time between now and even several months from now in a very quickly changing world. But right now LED fixtures are available and we don't anticipate delays.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a motion and second to approve the executive director's recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Pam?
Commissioners Alexander,
Aye.
Kuprokomis,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Levy,
Aye.
McDonald,
Aye.
O'Halloran,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
and Saruda.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, commissioners. Our meeting's adjourned. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.